All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Sorry, repeating myself. Let's look at the temperatures for California. It's going. Okay, let's see. Right here. So later next week, it's going to get brutally hot for California. I mean, temperatures are exceeding 120 degrees here in California. I mean, look at this. This is just absolutely incredible. Look at that, 120 degrees. Just crazy. I mean, I'm just at a loss for words. I mean, I have seen like 110, 115, but never 120. I have never, ever seen that before. Jeez. Fresno, poor Fresno. So look at Bakersfield, 116. Fresno, 120. Sacramento, 110. There's Sacramento right there. There's Sacramento. Stockton, Sacramento, Chico, and then Redding. Jesus, it's just going to be incredibly hot. Look at this. This is not even the maximum temperature for that day. Like, that's not even the maximum value. Look at 121, 121, 115. Like, this is going to be a very brutal heat wave. You're going to have basically a heat dome building up over that area. So let's look at the 850 millibar height, basically at right around 5,000 feet. So here's the major heat dome that's over here, and how it sits over Nevada. It's basically sitting right over Nevada. I'm looking at 925 millibars. Jeez. Look at these temperatures. I mean, look at this just dome of heat. Let me zoom out and show you the entire United States. Look at this major dome of heat just sitting over the American Southwest. Major drought conditions across this entire area. Lake Mead has already hit their all-time record low. I mean, the Lake Mead water level is just at astronomically low levels, never seen before. 1,068 feet. I mean, look at this. This is the previous record. If you see this, we're below what we were in 2016. This is the new record, guys. This is new. We're at 1,068. How low will it go, guys? Like, how low? How much lower can it go? I mean, we need the monsoon to kick into high gear. I mean, thankfully the decrease has happened because level is 160.45 feet. That's the water level. That's how much water is in the below full pool is 1,229. So there's very little water left at Lake Mead. So there's 160 feet of water in there. So that's good. So there's water, but it's very little. Plus a decrease of 10 feet. Full pool is 1,229 feet. Winter pool is 915 feet. Water levels 1,060. There's very little water left in Lake Mead. I mean, keep in mind that we're 1,229 feet below full pool, basically. I mean, the very severe drought is it's not just a drought, it's the record heat. Like, you're dealing with record heat, record dry, weather. And I mean, Moscow, Russia is even dealing with record heat. Temperatures exceed. It's not just affecting the United States, it's also affecting Russia. Let's go to tropical tidbits and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go to global. Okay, European. Let's go to regions. Let's go to Eastern Europe, or just Europe in general. So this is Europe. Actually, I think the GFS is better to look at. Thermodynamics, 2 meter temperatures. So, wow, 48 degrees Celsius. I mean, look at that. I have never seen temperatures that high before in the Sahara. Like, that is just high. That is crazy high. That is 118 degrees. I have never seen that before. I mean, wait, that's Sahara. I think that's normal for them, but still, that is very, very high. See, look at that, 30 degrees, temperatures exceeding 30. Let's look at regions, and now let's look at North Africa. Look at this, just absolutely insane. I mean, this is kind of normal for the Sahara. I mean, this is the Sahara Desert right here. This is where most of the desert is. Yeah, it's cooler here because this is more semi-arid. It's arid here, but considering here it's not as hot because your heat dome is basically here. Plus, and this heat dome is actually causing the difference between the heat dome to the north and the cooler temperatures to the south because of the monsoon is causing the stronger winds to blow off of Africa. 10-meter winds. You can see how it's causing these tropical waves to form. So this very strong heat dome is causing, surface low pressure because very high heat. Look at that, possibly exceeding 50 degrees Celsius here. Incredible, like 50 degrees. Humans, like, we die if our body temperature ever exceeds 108 degrees. So unsurvivable temperatures across a large area here. Like, people outside in this temperature, in these temperatures, will not survive. Like, if there is high humidity with this, heat exhaustion is a absolute certainty. I mean, let's look at. Let me see if they're going to give us the Middle East, Asia. Okay, so let's look. Jeez, 49 degrees. This is right where Iran gets their oil from. Wow, 49 degrees. A large swath of temperatures above 120 degrees here in eastern Iran, western Iraq. So just an entire area of greater than 120 degrees. So the southwest, temperatures over 100 here in the Gobi Desert. Of course, in Tibet, look at that. Look, across most of Tibet, it's really chilly, which is kind of normal. So I think that's what Lhasa is. You see. I believe that so yeah, that's Lhasa right here. Lhasa is in this area here, the capital of Tibet. Again, Beijing, very high temperatures. I mean, look at this. So it doesn't look too bad now, and then look what's going to happen. Jesus Christ, just incredible, just crazy heat. So this area, Western Iran. So Abkhaz is going to have a very, very, very crazy heat. I mean, a large part of Iran, like Tehran, of course, is in the mountains, So so it's not as hot. But look at Uzbekistan. Look at this, 43 degrees Celsius in the hundreds. And a lot of this heat is even expanding into Siberia. Of course, you can see a cold front basically coming through here. So temperatures in the upper 80s to low 90s, which is for Siberia just absolutely insane. And that's of course is lakes. That's Lake Baikal right there. That's a rift lake actually, and it still has some potential volcanism under its bed, because this is a rift zone. This is where magma could potentially one day rise to the surface. So it's a rift lake. So one of the oldest lakes in the world, and the deepest. It's the deepest freshwater lake in the world because it's formed by a rift fault. It's not like formed by a glacial. This is not a glacial lake. This is a rift fault, just like in Africa. It's a relatively new one too, so it could potentially, I don't know, spread more and even, I don't know, cause Russia to split apart like hundreds of millions, tens of millions of years in the future. But anyway, Abkhaz and Saudi and Iran right now, it's just crazy. Ahaz. This is where the crazy heat is going to happen. So right now, of course, it's nighttime there. It's like basically 8 p.m. like 8 p.m. there. Undefined. Yeah. Oh, there we go. This is daytime temperatures, basically 96, 117. Jeez, 21 degrees. I mean, average. The average temperature is 117, so a little above the average. Okay, it looks like it's freezing up. I mean, there, it's like, okay, if you're going to have such... It's... Hold on for a second. So, yeah, just absolutely crazy heat. Just astounding heat. Let's look at the southern hemisphere now. Let's look at South America. Wow. You could see where a large part of the Amazon was destroyed, basically. That's why you're having all this heat. Because the Amazon is here. The Amazon River goes here, but a large part of the forest, as you know, was destroyed because of policies of Jair Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro, a horrible, horrible president of Brazil, and basically one of the worst environmental disasters formed in Brazil because of him. Because of his policies of allowing farmers to cut down the Amazon, like for farming and grazing. He is just a horrible person. But I'm not going to talk about political stuff. Doesn't matter what political party he's with, his policies is causing climate catastrophe. And it's not just the policies of Jair Bolsonaro, but also the policies of countries like Russia that is pumping oil. A lot of Middle Eastern countries are engrossed in the fossil fuel industries, and they're actually destroying themselves by pumping all this carbon into the atmosphere. They are causing their hot climates to get hotter, drier over time. I mean, it's not going to be like overnight, but you know what I'm talking about. They are causing damage to not only their our current generation and their own generation, but significant life-threatening, possibly extinction level, like widespread extinction level events could occur, where you're going to have a collapse of the food chain, possibly several decades down the line because of ocean acidification. I mean, you ever heard of the Great Dying? Basically a volcanic eruption in Siberian traps that caused mass extinction. 90% of all sea species and 70% of all land species went extinct because of a volcanic eruption. It's called the Great Dying. Cause was a volcanic eruption that basically causes the release of coal seams. Of course, the eruption did not initially cause the Great Dying. It actually was an explosive eruption that released lots of ash and lava. That's not what released all the carbon. It was not the lava that released all the carbon. No, it was the underground magma. You know how sometimes magma would travel along underground? Well, there were lots of coal seams underground, and the magma went underground through those coal seams, and would release it in gigantic spurts and bursts. It was even worse long term than the impact 65 to 66 million years ago. So anyway, yeah, so it was basically just tragic. It was just horrible. And it released basically 1,000 times the amount of CO2 that we did. And it caused CO2 levels to hit almost 8,000 parts per million, over like 4,000 parts per million. Yeah, CO2 levels, and this wasn't overnight. It didn't happen, within 100, 200 years. This happened over the course of a few 100,000 years. This was, like, the eruption happened over time, but the release of carbon happened within a very accelerated time period of a couple of centuries. Because I mean, what levels they were? The process gradually, okay. Yeah, basically. Was it, while higher than it's been in the last, it's significantly less at 415 ppm. Yeah, a few thousand parts per million. So yeah, but it's still significantly less at 415, but rising fast. I mean, if we continue to burn CO2 like the way we do, by the end of the century we'll be at 500 at least. We'll be at over 500, approaching 600 by the turn of the century, possibly. Like we'll be in the mid 500s, probably. I mean, it's still a far cry from here, but you're going to have at least a 2 to 3 degrees Celsius increase in global temperatures, and that would cause glacial ice to melt rapidly, causing sea levels to rise. So maybe you won't have that, Great Dying type effect, but you will have ocean acidification to some extent. You will also have rising sea levels, some definitely mass extinctions, not just because of some bitch distracted me. Knowing I'm doing a freaking live stream. Anyway, this is why I hate living with people. Anyway, Anyway, yeah. So as I said, ocean acidification and mass extinctions will definitely be occurring. Probably not at the level of what happened 250 million years ago, but already there have been mass extinctions. We are actually in a mass extinction right now. Already numerous species have been going extinct because of our activities, like directly because of our activities, especially the dodo bird, and more recently some species of frogs, birds went extinct. You almost had the extinction of numerous bird species in America because of pesticide use. So our impact, we're not just having an impact on the climate, but we're having an impact on everything, marine life, because of our plastic pollution. We're having an impact on life on Earth because of our, destruction of ecosystems. Climate change is just one big issue. It's just one piece of a very large pie, as so to speak. It's just one big piece. It's like probably one of the bigger pieces, but it's not the only piece. You have other issues. You have ocean acidification. You have, all these chemicals in the water, especially lead. Like, why is it not safe to eat fish? Because of lead. And why is it not safe? Why is the lead in the water? Because of coal. A lot of people living near coal plants have a lot of health issues, not just asthma, but high levels of lead and high levels of mercury in their blood. And honestly, natural gas, even though it has lower CO2 emissions when you're burning it, extracting it releases huge amounts of CO2 and methane. Fracking is really bad for the environment. I think we need to transition entirely to electric energy, to lithium ion, because Earth is not the only planet with lithium ion on it. Titan actually has lithium ion because of its very thick atmosphere. So in order to produce lithium, you need to have an atmosphere. Basically, if Mars were to have a thick atmosphere, at least 2 times that of Earth, it would have more lithium than Earth does. And there's a lot of lithium that has not been explored and mined. But of course, mining is bad for the environment. But you can mine resources without destroying the environment. For example, in mountains, where you do not have much life, especially at kind of mountains in areas where there's very little biodiversity. If you do mine, you do not mine an area that has high biodiversity. You mine where you have little to no biodiversity, like definitely not in the Alps, and definitely not in a large part of the Rocky Mountains, but in South America, high in the Andes, where there's very little biodiversity because of it's a high altitude, and B, you do it on the rain shadow side where there's very little biodiversity because already that area receives almost no rain. You do not do it on the side that receives the rainfall, because that area will also run off and cause massive amounts of environmental damage from all the runoff. Because lithium, while we don't have a lot of stockpiles of it, naturally occurring lithium is everywhere. It's found everywhere. We probably will run out of it because it's just everywhere. The only problem is, people are trying to compete over where there's more lithium and stuff like that. If there was no competition, if everyone was mining lithium normally, you wouldn't have problems. In fact, lithium ion deposits. I know I'm talking. This is about climate change. I'm just going off on a little tangent here. I'm trying to look at lithium. Lithium in the Earth's crust. Actually, a very little percentage of the Earth's crust. Sodium ion batteries. Mm. Plus, you also have lithium here, all along the Rocky Mountain. You know, the Andes here. I mean yeah. 500 charging cycles. Capacity dropped to 80%. That's actually pretty good. 500 charging cycles. So that's 500 charges and discharges. So not perfect, but it's not bad. You know, that could allow for a few years of driving. And it decreased to only 80%. So unfortunately, I no longer just... And and sodium is just like everywhere. Like, we have so much sodium, like salt. But it's... So yeah, although sodium does not have the energy density of the Camaro, it is widely and cheaply available. Yeah, then you'll have electric cars being sold for like $5,000-$6,000. Well, maybe not that cheap, but batteries will start making up, because currently batteries make up a large component of the price of an electric car. But if you're going to make something that's so cheap, like imagine Tesla is using sodium-ion batteries that instead of costing $50,000 cost, you know, like a quarter of the price. You could sell possibly a car like the Model 3 for what, $14,000-$15,000, and like you could have range. You can have a large range. You know, possibly. You know, you probably have to calculate. You'll have to calculate. You know, the range of the car. You know, how much energy each battery holds, the capacity versus the weight, and then calculate the range of the car by how much kilowatt that battery pack can hold, and how many miles that car can go with that amount. So anyway, this is definitely the future, but it's not just lithium ion that's the future, it's actually graphene. But let's go back to talking about the environment, climate change. We need to radically change how we use resources in our planet, how we need to do a lot. Okay, no one's watching. Okay. It looks like everything's good. You know what? I'm ending the stream. I'm starting a new one, guys. No one's watching this. Climate crisis.